So call to order, it's 5:23, and we have Joe. And I think you have to say here.
Here.
And Kate Ryan.
Here.
And we have a lot of wonderful guests. So I don't think you guys have to say anything, but Liz Cobb's also present on Zoom, and Kimberly from supporting. And then we have some guests that'll be on the video in a minute. So what we thought we would do is, I think we can delay the election of officers, number 3 on the agenda, but we'll go over approval of minutes and then go right down to I guess it's under classification actions. Is that right, Kimberly? Is that
That's the way
number 5?
That's the way it's been listed, Liz, on prior agendas. And so
Okay.
just mirrored that. That's the reason why we have several of our guests on tonight, just to make sure if there are any questions about their classification requests, that they're present and accounted for.
Okay. So since we've done the call to order, we'll approve minutes from June 14 and then go right to the classification actions, so we don't have to keep everyone holding and waiting through the whole meeting. And then we'll get back to the agenda schedule, okay? Approval of minutes, it's looking to Joe and Kate. Do you have any questions or comments on the minutes from June 14? I'm trying a new format, as you can see, where it's much more truncated. It's not so long. And I thought maybe 1 page, but I got it to 2 pages. Did I cover everything as you guys saw it, or what do you think?
I thought it was fine when I read through it.
Same here. I mean, I wasn't there, but I watched most of the meeting. So yeah, my only one caveat was that in attendance in the room, it says Joe Marachik.
Oh my goodness, sorry.
No worries.
So I will
Otherwise,
put
I
Joe and Bill Joe Emmerich and Bill Marachik. Okay, thank you for catching that, Kate. Yeah, that doesn't give us a quorum even, does it? With the wrong person and only 2 others. So, okay, so with that correction, there's nothing else from either of you?
No.
Do we have a motion
No,
to
I'm good.
approve the minutes?
Sure, I can make a motion to approve the minutes for the, I think it was what, June 14th meeting?
Yeah. And I'll second, with the caveat noting Kate's correction. Okay. All right, that was big business. That's over. So I think we should jump now to the classification actions, the review and approval of various new positions or changes in those positions. So
sorry to interrupt, Liz. Do we need to have a roll call vote on that?
oh, thank you. See, this is why Bill does the meeting running, isn't it? Okay, so I announced you guys, but I think a roll call. So I guess I should say, I did say everyone is on Zoom, but roll call, Kate Ryan.
No, I meant on the minutes, right? Or I don't think we voted on that. We just he approved and I second.
Okay. All right. So then a roll call on the approval of the minutes. Okay. All right. So Kate.
Yes.
And Joe.
Yes.
And Liz, yes. Okay. So we roll called on the approval of the minutes. And now we'll go back over to the new positions. And Kimberly, do you want to start with the CFO in the order that they're in, or how do you want to go through these?
I thought it might be helpful to just preface by saying that, of course, July 1st, the compensation and classification study, that was the date of, or the effective date of the approval at town meeting. And so we had several positions that were already posted and we were in the midst of recruiting for. And so tonight, those job descriptions are before you for your approval, so that they're legitimate, with the comp and class study approval. In addition, we have a number of jobs that we want to post. that, you know, they were pent up demand, that now that the compensation and classification study is approved, we're ready to post those and get rolling on them. That's going to continue through the summer. We're going to continue to need to fill jobs. And Liz was kind enough to put me in touch with a former clerk whose name escapes me at the moment. Liz, I apologize.
Anita Techley?
Anita Techley, who was very gracious in responding that she believed that under the personnel bylaw and our PPPs here, our policies here, that we can post any of the jobs that were approved at town meeting as part of the comp and class plan. So even if you haven't seen their job description yet, we can post it pending approval by the board. So in other words, that would allow us to post future job descriptions, post future jobs, excuse me, but we just wouldn't hire the person and put them into the slot until you had the opportunity to approve the description. So I appreciated that, because we don't know who might retire in the next week or who might resign in the next week, and we may need to take advantage of that as we're filling critical jobs throughout the remainder of the summer. So our goal long-term by end of summer is to have all of the job descriptions before you, but the ones you see tonight are kind of a critical nature, just from a timeliness standpoint. And so the leaders from these organizations are online, just in case you have questions, because most of these job descriptions were completed long before I got here as part of the study. So with that, we'll just take them in order that they appeared in your packet. We do have an opening for Chief Financial Officer. There are no changes to the body of this description. It's just simply the pay grade that's being adjusted for that. And I don't know if, do we vote on these individually, or do you want to go through them all and then vote on them together? Or
I think if there are any questions that come up, we should handle them as they are. But Joe, I think you were trying to say something. You were on Zoom, but
No, I don't know if there's any procedural reason we need to vote individually, but if not, my recommendation would be to go through all of them and then have a vote at the end.
okay. I agree. That
Yeah, I
sounds
agree.
all right. And then the next one is the aquatics manager, and I see Anna McEwen, who's on with us tonight. This job has been posted. I believe it was posted as an aquatics director, and as part of the comp and class study, the title was adjusted to aquatics manager with a salary grade 9. And then Anna also has do we want to take questions as we do them? Why don't we do that? Are there any questions about the aquatics manager?
Or Anna, is there anything you'd like to add? Any emphasis?
No, this, like Kimberly said, this job is one that we've had on our, it was the miscellaneous compensation schedule in the past. The information is all the same. It's the title change and the grade that's different tonight.
And then the next two share the same job title and salary grade, but in posting these, the critical skills needed are somewhat different. Even though they're equivalent, they are somewhat different. And it's our desire to post them with a bent toward either programming or safety services. And so you'll see 2 separate job descriptions that go into some level of detail about both what the essential job functions will be and what skills are required.
Yeah, and to add on to that, like Kimberly just said, so this position would support the BD Center's aquatics operation as well as the seasonal operations at White Pond and Emerson Pool. The BD Center alone has about 2,000 kids that participate in swim lessons per year, and we recognize that we need a dedicated person to be focusing on those registrations and enrollments. So that's the programming person. They'll be overseeing all of our classes, lessons, swim teams, things of that nature. And then the safety supervisor, that person will primarily focus on lifeguarding and pool quality and water quality testing and things of that nature. So both are very big jobs. Historically, we've tried to put that in one position and we've burnt people out. We've lost a lot of people who it's just too much. So it's just time to split those jobs and really prioritize the demand that each of those specific areas takes. So that's why we've split them like this.
And then finally, within recreation, we have the recreation facilities coordinator. And
Sorry, Kimberly, can I just ask a quick question about the aquatics supervisor? So one of these is a new role, or rather it was one position that's now being split into two. So it's a brand new position, sort of?
Correct. So we used to hire an aquatics director that was expected to do it all. And yeah, way too much. It's really a job for 3 people. So we are hoping to hire an aquatics manager sooner than later. We're hoping to move our full-time current head lifeguard into the safety services position. And then we'd be putting the programmer position out for posting.
Okay, thank you. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt, Kimberly.
No problem.
that's why we're all here. Finally, for Anna, the recreation facilities coordinator, who's also a BD center critical need.
Exactly. So this position too, the BD Center operation is incredibly involved as a plant itself. So we've recognized that we need a person who really will focus specifically on the facility and the capital planning, the mechanics that operate the building, things of that nature. So this person will support that as well as the seasonal physical operation of Emerson Pool, getting it open, getting it ready for swimming, closing that pool, and supporting the operation planning of White Pond with the swim lines, the docks, the infrastructure at the physical space. So this will be a dedicated position that was the assistant general manager of the BD Swim and Fitness Center, and we've morphed it into this more prioritized need. So we will not be filling the assistant general manager position right now.
Can I just ask this for my own curiosity? How many seasonals do you hire for the beach and for rec
Sure.
programs in general? Just curious.
Not enough. So we have
Yes.
we have about 30 lifeguards that support White Pond. That's a
Okay.
7-day-a-week operation from
Yeah.
10 a.m. to 7 p.m. Emerson Pool, we'd like to have about 12, and we have 4. That's also a 7-day-a-week operation with varying hours. Monday through Friday, it's evenings, and then weekends, it's 10 to 7 p.m. And then the BD Center is about 100 hours a week. So they have close to probably 75 part-time instructors between lifeguards, head lifeguards, swim instructors, and fitness instructors. And again, we hope we can continue to find more staff, but lots of part-timers are dependent on these roles.
Okay. Thank you.
Anna, are there any benefits for people that work in these roles? Like, are there discounts or anything from a membership perspective that they're eligible for?
Yeah, great questions. So all these 3 full-time positions, yes. So anybody that works for the recreation department gets a membership to the BD Swim and Fitness Center for them and their families. They also have the opportunity to join Emerson Pool or White Pond. So they have that benefit.
Okay. I don't know if the job description is the right spot for that. Maybe it is or isn't, but I would, if you're not already, definitely suggest headlining that or putting that somewhere where it's easily visible for candidates when we do go to recruit.
Yeah, great idea. We could put that in the posting description, maybe that lead-in paragraph. Thank you.
Yeah.
All right, leaving recreation, moving on to the public health nurse. This is a position that's going to be shared between the town of Concord and the town of Maynard. And I believe it's been in the works for some time and was part of the class study. And so it is a new position. I see we have Megan on this evening and a helper.
Hello, everyone. I haven't met you all. My name is Megan Zamudo. I'm the deputy town manager, and I have some TV in the background, so I'm sorry. I'm trying to manage a couple of things at the moment, including this is Winifred Zamudo helping out. But the public health position is actually a really exciting one for me because I came from the town of Maynard. And so in over the winter, the town of Maynard and the town of Concord were both receiving public health nursing services from Emerson Hospital, and they ended the contract unexpectedly. And so both Maynard and Concord were really trying to work together to come up with, I have another one as well, come up with a plan that would make sense for both towns. And this part-time position was, I think, a really great collaboration between the two towns. And it's going to be able to help us go even further with assisting in the public nurse world and continue to be proactive in public health.
Awesome.
Then the next position is an administrative specialist position. And this is not a new job. I don't believe it's a new job title or a new job. Of course, everything's a new job grade, but it is a new position for the building inspections area. And so it's before you tonight with the new list of duties for the Planning and Land Management Building Inspections Division under Megan.
Yes, thank you. And this one was in the works for a number of months prior to my coming to the town, but you know, I think with the volume of the building division and the increase of administrative responsibilities, it was proven and accepted at town meeting, of course, that this position was necessary to fill in this office. So I hope you'll support that.
Thank you. Thank you, Megan. That concludes Megan's area. Then next we have the Senior Public Works Engineer, and I see Alan on with us tonight from the Public Works Director. And Alan, you may want to speak to this position because I know this position was prior, had a different title, right?
Yes, thank you. Good evening. Again, Alan Cathcart, Public Works Director. This position is in essence an attempt to attract candidates for what we used to call public works engineer. We actually have 4 different engineers, but we had a public works engineer, an assistant public works engineer, and working with the town engineer, he thought people are not as attracted to being an assistant public works engineer. So we basically retitled the positions just to try and make sure we could attract interest. The engineering field, especially in kind of civil engineering, is very competitive. Titles matter. And because of that, we're simply changing the title. The job description is the same. So at this stage, we're looking to fill this position based on a recent resignation. Someone's going to work, for the state. Engineers tend to rotate pretty routinely, so we're trying to make this more attractive. So that's what we're calling it, a senior public works engineer. So that's really the long and short of it. Responsibilities are already established and still serve the purpose for the town.
Thank you, Alan. And then the next one is also under Public Works. It's the Environmental Health and Safety Manager. And this job has been posted for some time. In fact, I think we're nearing selection for this role. And so this is just placing the proper pay grade on it so that we can have approval of it and make it a legitimate title and grade.
Yeah, that's correct, Kimberly. And there was a discussion on this position, I think more in detail at a meeting sort of in, was it, March or, about then. So it was a lengthy discussion. Very important position. First time we're going to have a environmental health and safety manager, where OSHA oversees a lot of the private industries and trying to make sure their operations are done in a compliant, safe manner. Department of Labor Standards is who we report to. In the old days, he used to say OSHA, municipalities didn't fall under OSHA. We do fall under the Department of Labor Standards, and they're making an effort to really look at our industry and make sure we're sort of conforming and complying with safety protocols and standards that are really necessary. So this is a very important position, and certainly looking forward to having them be the staff. And we have a great candidate. We're sort of very close to, you know, sort of finalizing, you know, the offer. So.
Awesome.
All right, thank you, Alan. And then finally, a building custodian. We do have an opening for a building custodian right now, and so that included so that we can post for that position. And that's within the facilities area, and it's going to be a grade 1. Then turning our attention to the IT world, we have an opening for a media manager, and unfortunately, Jason's not able to be with us this evening, but I do see Dave Yuan, and I'll try not to butcher this too badly, and you can save me if need be, but this position used to be, I believe, station manager. And it's kind of a combination approach to bring it, you know, to a little bit more modern oversight for the Minuteman Media Network. And so Dave, from there, I'll let you add some more color if you'd like.
No, I think you highlighted the main points. That's really the difference. So good job. You didn't butcher it.
All right. And then also within the IT area, looking for a network engineer. And this is a critical position that troubleshoots and so looking to make that a formal, legitimate position as well. And then we have several with it. Oh, I'm sorry, Dave, did you want to add?
Yeah, the network engineer is actually a broadband position. It does report to Jason, who's in IT, but it is part of the light plant. We're currently in the process of trying to bring someone on. We've interviewed second round, so we're in the offer process now. So that's all I wanted to add.
Is
Great.
this a new, oh, sorry, is this a new position? I was
No,
just
it's a vacant position.
Oh, it's vacant, okay.
It's been open for several months, and it's a really hard position to fill.
Yeah. I feel your pain. I've had the same problem in my own work, so anyway, sorry, go on.
No one let Kate know who your candidate is. No, I'm kidding.
No, don't, because we're looking for a network engineer too, so.
Moving on, also in the light plant, the equipment line operator.
So nothing's really changed in this position other than the grade. And I think we updated the title, Kimberly, a little bit.
Have utility in front of it.
Yeah,
We took
but
out.
other than that, the job duties have been established.
And then similarly for line worker grade 1 and line worker grade 2. I don't believe there were significant changes made to those.
No, the salary range and the classification are the two big things there. We are recruiting for the line worker position, and we've been recruiting for a while, so we have 2 openings. You know, the new pay range is certainly going to help attract people or candidates. So that's really the duties haven't changed. So that's about it on that.
We have been seeing a trickle of candidates for those positions, so that's exciting. The crew member within the water and sewer division, and board members, you may recall that we've had some discussion about employees prior to the comp and class study. We did not have an entry-level position in this area. So we were hiring people who were not really fully qualified into a job, and then giving them time to obtain certain certifications or licensure. This crew member position is the entry-level position that we've been talking about the organization creating. So with that, Alan, I'll flip to you if you'd like to add anything.
I think you covered it. I will say that the water wastewater industry is desperate for licensed operators. And there's a real game as far as trying to literally poach operators from other systems. This allows us to grow them in-house and basically train them, get them sort of familiar with our system. And already, you know, we're seeing the potential to really get some great people who have a lot of potential. And so this has been a long overdue, and definitely appreciate the support on sort of allowing us to create this position.
Great, thank you.
Kim, I have just one question on that note from Alan's role. For internal applicants, how does the town handle those? Or for these positions, is there a process in place? Or have we already posted internally? Just curious how that works.
Yeah, so it really depends on. So right now we have the good fortune of, we're going to talk about grooming from internship on. So we actually have a pretty aggressive program reaching out and working with trade schools and also seasonal interns, including college interns. And we've actually been able to sort of groom someone who is very eager to get into the industry, knows our system. And so because of that, in this particular case, the internal posting has been sort of exercised. But in the future, it does allow us to cast a pretty wide net. And especially we start looking at opportunities, especially with DEI and that sorts of things, it could be a good sort of vehicle to attract people who wouldn't otherwise.
Thank you.
Thank you, Alan and Joe. And then finally, the office assistant for the Concord Free Public Library, Emily has an opening. This position is not part of the comp and class study. However, it is on the miscellaneous compensation schedule, and it is a new position for Emily's area. And so we wanted to bring it before you tonight for approval. Any questions that you might have. Frankly, I'll be honest, I'm not sure that this is required, but out of respect, I wanted to make sure that we put all of our cards on the table. And if you tell me that it's not required for the future, then we'll handle it accordingly. But we certainly didn't want to post it without it being approved within the confines of the board.
And Emily, this is a full-time position?
It is an 18-hour-a-week position, part-time. It's been filled with a contract employee, and so we'd like to post it and hire it from the miscellaneous comp schedule. So we used, the job description is from the visitor center's office assistant job description and just tweaked to match what the library's specifics are.
And so, of course, with this being 18 hours, that is limited status, and that's on the miscellaneous schedule.
Mhm.
So that concludes what we have before you tonight. We do still have other items, of course, that'll be forthcoming as we make decisions internally on them. And so with that, that concludes the presentation, and I'll invite any final questions that y'all might have.
I have a general question. This is not, the job descriptions are very clear. I think that the format and everything makes it easy for anyone to read through and understand what the role would be. So I don't have any specific things, and I didn't see any typos at all. So there's nothing that minor either. But my general question is more about the implementation, how there was some really, Alan, I think it was your comments about reaching out to trade schools and systematically building systems to help you find folks. Is there anything that you're learning that others might also benefit from across the systems, or is there anything that folks here on the personnel board with their experience might be able to comment on in terms of attracting people? Very general question.
You sort of pointed out what we're doing in public works, and it's really been effective for water sewer to, the internship programs have been huge. It's very low cost. It's a great opportunity to expose talent to the industry, because most people don't really understand. I wouldn't have imagined getting to public works, having graduated from college is the last place I would have thought. But we have a lot of opportunities, and so we can really draw from different skill sets. And what I really appreciate with public works is the hands-on operational mechanical skills. We really have a great opportunity for, people who just want to work hard and learn, but it also gets very technical. So, we do reach out to UMass Lowell. We've gotten a lot of great candidates over the last few years, different colleges, and we introduce them to water quality, water resource protection, stormwater. In our engineering group, we do well by bringing in, students who have great theoretical understanding, but don't know our universe. And I think a lot of them stay in it, or at least get, exposed. And, I've seen great success. So I think, having that ability to work with interns has been very important for us. And then just, again, creating this level where it's a laborer with a trade target, but not all the licenses, allows us to, really take advantage of a pool that would otherwise not even consider the position. They wouldn't feel like they were qualified. So those
And
are.
they then would start, but they might not have all the certifications required, but you're supporting them to move forward in those. Is that?
That's
And how
right.
does that work, Kimberly, with the CNC plan? Because I know, they're pretty strict qualifications on all these job descriptions.
This crew member job, which is before you this evening, is actually the entry level position that Alan's team, and Jeff, I see you, it's nice to meet you. Jeff's area would bring them in, and then they could work. I believe now, Alan, forgive me because I know Florida, but I don't know Massachusetts, but you have to have so many hours of experience before you can even sit for some of those licenses, right?
That's right. And it varies. So we have the kinds of licenses we're talking in public works include operation of equipment, so that might be a CDL, very important. Hoisting licenses, those require more just sort of a training, education, and some time, sort of practical time. Not a lot, but it's something they can get with the oversight. And in fact, to Jeff's credit and Scott Chalmers, who is our assistant water sewer superintendent, they actually created a program in-house. Jeff, you can describe where we can train people, which we would otherwise have to send out at a significant cost to the town. Do you want to explain that program? Because that's very innovative. And we took advantage of a new license requirement or training that just occurred about 2 years ago. Jeff, what was that program? It was pretty fascinating how you guys pulled that together.
2022, where the law changed and there became a requisite training program in order to be able to become eligible to sit for the licensure of CDL. And we were able to register ourselves as a trainer. And we've been working with some of our new hires, especially the younger hires that obviously haven't had their CDLs, but it's a requirement of the position. So it's been very useful that way. On a separate path, one thing I do want to mention too is we do frequently offer tours, especially to trade schools and to Minuteman and to other type programs. So it's been an effort to maintain network connections with prospective candidate pools, whether it's collegiate or high school level. But that's borne fruit for us. So we're happy about that.
I think Kate was taking notes. So those are good things to do, right?
I was actually taking notes. Thank you.
Yeah, no, that's
I
great.
work for the town of Wayland as the HR director. So these are all issues that we struggle with on a daily basis in our DPW. So
One of the things, Liz, back to your question about, things that I've seen maybe work with the job description. So I think these are all very well written and thorough from a job responsibility perspective and kind of what the town needs. I think over time, what we may want to consider are ways to bring forward some of the stuff, if it's membership or differentiation points with the town of Concord versus maybe other places where some of these applicants might be considering working that are better or different. I don't know if there's things about the history of the town, the culture of, what it's like to work there, or you all would know certainly better than I, but I think sometimes leading with those things at the top of the job description and in terms of what's in it for me as a candidate can sometimes pull people in and generate more applicant flow. I've seen that work effectively, particularly in this labor market where people have, you can go out and look and you'll find all of these jobs posted probably at different towns or private employers. So you kind of want to try to use them as a marketing tool to stand out where possible. But I know that's work probably underway and in progress.
Exciting. The town has a really great story, not only does it have a great history, but really as an outsider coming in, there really is a special sauce here. And these guys and their teams contribute to it. I was with the fire chief today doing some interviewing for promotionals at the fire department. And we were talking about what a special place this is. And the way that this leadership team and across the board departments work together here. It's really palpable as a person coming in from the outside. And so I just want to commend everyone. I'm coming in kind of on the tail end of this, and it's been a little bit of a scramble, let's face it, but everyone couldn't have been more supportive and helpful, and they really want to make sure that the town has its best foot forward throughout the recruitment process. So my appreciation for all of that.
It's also really encouraging to hear that the new CNC plan is actually helping you in your endeavors to find folks. So that's very encouraging to hear after all this scramble, and thanks to Kimberly for getting us here. So I think we're at the point to bring to a vote. Are there any questions from Kate or Joe about specifics on any of the job descriptions, or as we discussed earlier, shall we just approve them in all together? Any comments? No? All right, so somebody want to make a motion? Yeah, sorry, Joe, go ahead.
Kate, you were saying something too. I didn't know.
No,
if
I was gonna make a motion.
Okay, go ahead.
So I'm just not sure how to do it, if I have to call out each individual job description, name, job title, but I'd like to make a motion to approve all grade and job description changes as brought forth on the July 12th, 2023 agenda packet. Does that sound?
I think that sounds reasonable. And what I'll do is in the notes, I can say I'll list the titles out so that folks that are just reading it for summary will see the names of all of those. So Joe, I'll leave it to you to second.
No, second the motion.
Okay, and now we'll go to the vote, as Kate rightly mentioned. So I vote yes on that
Yes.
motion.
I as well vote yes.
Yes, for me.
Congratulations, everyone. We're not gonna, you don't have any hindrance now to going forward. It sounds like you've got some great people. Yeah, that's great. Thank you all very much.
Thank you.
And your assistants, Megan, I know they're unpaid, which is another whole risky thing, but they were very helpful.
Well, thank you. They will make an appearance here and there throughout my time here. It's the way of the world. So thank you for your patience and understanding with that.
That was fun.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Yeah.
All right, thanks, everyone. All right, so I think that was really nice to have everyone join us. So Kimberly, I think you orchestrated that, and thank you.
It's an awesome group. You really do have a very special team here. And, even to the extent that we have, hiccups and things that I don't understand or things that need a little bit of extra effort, everyone's been very, very supportive and gracious. And we're slaying dragons one at a time,
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's a lot of positions that are, they're eagerly working on. And I like that bit of discussion, Joe, that you instigated to talk about, how are they actually advertising to, put those enticements. I think you're really spot on with that, that there's a need to say why here and to really excite people.
Yeah, you're looking for the balance, right? I mean, it's a mutual kind of relationship. So wherever we can highlight what's in it for the worker, will
Yeah.
certainly help. Yeah.
Yeah.
And Kimberly, for future, which I know you're unfortunately limited in your future with us, but I was involved with University of New Hampshire a bit through my nephew to organize a internship for him. And I think we could go maybe farther afield, especially with these really invested leaders, to look at college interns, especially in engineering and fields where they really need support, but also the students need an opportunity to really try out a field. And even if we stuck just within the state, Northeastern has a huge internship program, and I wonder if our town is registered with them as an intern opportunity. But
I don't know the answer to that, but I will say, kind of a three-legged stool going forward, and I'm going to put a pin in class and comp for a second, but we'll need to come back to it. There are a number of things that I want to accomplish here before I'm finished. And Carrie and I have been talking extensively about one of the three-legged stool, if you will, is the recruiting function here at the town. I have a deep history with recruiting. It happens to be my favorite part of HR. And, because it's happy, right?
Yeah.
And I think while we've got such a great story to tell, she and I are talking about doing a cross-functional team and pulling people from different units, different departments within the town. We want some people who've been here a really long time who understand what the special sauce is in Concord. And we want some people who've come from other places who may have recruiting tips and tricks that they've used elsewhere to help devise. I'm calling it a slick because it used to be on slick paper as like a marketing piece. We used to do these, Kate, you and Joe probably know, you used to do these for like executive positions. But today, because everything is done electronically, a link, you don't have to do a slick anymore, right? You can take your slick and make it a link and use it for every job opening, from crew member and custodian all the way to CFO, And so the goal would be, and Joe's exactly right in some of his comments earlier, maybe this is where the idea came from, Joe. Anna was mentioning that BD Center, that when people come to work for the town, if they're full-time, they get a membership. But I understand that these summer camps that we do here within the town are hugely popular and they're very expensive. And I believe, please don't quote me on this, but I believe that I was told that for one child, if you're a staff member here at the town, your rate is something like $40 a week for that camp.
Wow, that's huge.
And especially if you have multiple children, right? And so I say that I think there's a marketing piece there that isn't the job description, but that is the precursor, the sizzle, before you get the actual job duties, that not everybody's going to want the discount, not everybody's going to want the BD Center but if you put enough of those things in, then there's something for everybody, right? By the time you tuition reimbursement or this or that, there's something for everyone. And one of the things we did in my prior role is we used our social media to highlight we had a rotating schedule that we would use to highlight. If you're looking on our GovCareers website, we would have a different benefit that we would put up every few days.
Oh, nice.
So that this county does this, and everybody doesn't want everything. But if you're already in our job board looking at what your area of expertise, then you're sure to, if you're following, you're going to see all of those benefits.
Yeah. And that gets us to another comment, Kimberly, which is our website really needs an update. And I had a chance to talk to folks who were involved in Bedford and some other local towns, neighboring towns. And what she said was they were all using the same service, but if you look at their websites, they're quite professional and interactive, more interactive, where you would see what you just described, flagged and so forth. So I think there's some real, on the communication side, we have to link our work into that bigger picture with the town website. But yeah, advertising in a more encouraging way, open or interactive way, I think sounds really good.
Yeah, I'll mention too, you know, we do have a new communications director, and I've only spent limited time with her, but Donna McIntosh is her name. And I believe she came from another area within the town, and I'm sorry, I can't recall what it was. But she actually has an intern working for her right now who is studying social media and
Oh, great.
a marketing degree, I believe out of Connecticut, or she lives out of Connecticut. And so we just brought her on board in the last 10 days or so. I haven't had a chance to meet her, but anything that we're doing with socials, you know, she's, you know, she's digital native, and so she's way ahead of me.
That's great. Well, terrific. I think as we go through these more and more of the job descriptions over the next couple of months, we can come back to this and maybe start making some concrete recommendations about what specific things have to get done, and then recommend that back to the select board too.
And absolutely. And, you know, not being familiar with protocols and who does what, you know, if we pull together a group internally here that is a mix mash of departments and tenures and the like, I'd love to be able to report to you some of the things we're coming up with, and you can inform that.
Yeah.
I think there's plenty of room in the pool for everybody's ideas.
Yeah. That
Yeah.
sounds great.
If I could return us just for a second to the Concord class study, I just want to make sure, I don't want to waste y'all's time, but I also want to absolutely respect that the way I understand the bylaw and the rules, every job description that we put a new grade on should come to you for review and approval. Am I on point with that?
That was my
Yeah.
understanding.
Yeah, agreed. I mean, almost, it seems like for something that is so wide ranging, where you're basically taking for class and comp, it almost seems like it doesn't make sense for us to prove each individual grade on each, because we're talking about hundreds of jobs, right? That's going to take a while. So I'm wondering if we could do it. I don't know. It seems like a lot of work for not a lot of payoff, but
You know, part of me, just because I can't certify for you which job descriptions had changes and which ones didn't.
okay.
And so we had to take each of these 17 one by one to make sure that I could even describe to you what we were doing. And so I think there's going to be a large number that didn't see a lot of updates or any update. And to that extent, I think we could bring those all in a package. We can go through them as deeply as you want. They could all be approved like at the same time, because there's really no change.
So my understanding of our bylaw is that we are allowed to, so that we have authority, I should say, the personnel board has the authority to approve job description titles and grade. The job description itself is something that the HR director and town manager would oversee. So changes to the job description itself outside of the title and the grade wouldn't need to really come to us. Am I correct in that? Is that?
I'd have to look back at the bylaw
Yeah.
and double check it.
We can review the bylaw to make sure, because I don't want to make more work for you, I guess is what I'm saying.
And it sounds, what I'd love to see is, like, if we're doing that and we do it per area, because they're like Kate just described, kind of pro forma changes under the new class and comp plan. If we had an org chart to see, oh, this is how it's all structured, that could help us really streamline the work, right? Do one department, a second department, and, you know, I don't know if it's that there might be some that don't fit, like they're not ready with a job description or something, and they need to come back. But that might make it also easier, where we're really seeing this is how it's all laid out.
Can I ask another question? Since we've already approved the class and comp, the plan, the new plan that went into effect July 1, which basically shifted all of those the existing positions into this new scale and gave them grades, do we actually have to go job description by job description? Didn't we already do it? I guess that's a question. I don't.
I think you hit the nail on the head, Kate. If the board doesn't oversee the content of the job description, they only ensure that it matches the classification, then I think the answer is no.
Yeah, I think so too. Maybe that's a question for Carrie or, oh, sorry, I spoke over you. I didn't mean to.
No, it's okay. I think that would be fine. However, if you all oversee the content of the job descriptions and we've made any adjustments, then obviously I think you'd have to.
Okay.
I do think we have to double check that, but I
Yeah.
can, when I get back, I'll be back on the weekend. I can double check in the bylaw. And of course, we're going to talk a bit later. I don't think we should finalize anything without two of our members, but the draft charter might help us there too. And maybe what we want to do is lead it one way or the other with changes that are coming so that, we're more aligned or more efficient. So if it's okay, I'll shift us now to just a summary report, I guess. Kimberly was the number 4 on our agenda, the compensation and classification study implementation update. And then we could move down to the personnel charge and wrap up, but we didn't have any materials, just an update from you. I think verbally was the goal, right?
Yeah, I did want to share with you, it has been a challenging month since we were together last. I'm not at all complaining, but I just want to be honest and say that it's a lot of moving parts. And so we did end up sending an individualized email letter to each and every employee who was covered by the pay study. And we did tell them a number of things in this letter. It was done by mail merge, and what was shared with them was, this was your salary at the crosswalk, if you will. When we put you into the compensation and classification study, this is where your pay landed. I think there were several dozen people who were below the minimum for their new pay grade. We took them to the minimum. So long as they were qualified in their position, they went to the minimum. And then we told them, so this is your new title, this is your new pay grade, and this is where your pay landed in the crosswalk. And then after the salary increase that you all approved last meeting was a 3%. Plus, if you had passed your training period, then you got an extra 1%. So then we gave them the number that their final resting place, that would be their pay rate on this paycheck that's coming out. We just closed payroll today and tomorrow for the July 20th paycheck. And so that went fairly smoothly once we got it all programmed and input. That went fairly smoothly. We did have 2 people come forward and show us memorandums they had gotten from the prior director, where their number was different than what we had record of, but we were able to correct those very quickly. And everyone was so gracious. It's just kind of a hallmark of this, of your town. And then we moved forward to getting the pay information ready for payroll. And that was far more challenging. And so it's all ended well, and we're delighted that the files have all been sent and that it's all cared for. But it has been a significant challenge, and I'm really
so Kimberly, could you? I know that I've heard individually on what was your challenges with ADP. But probably those challenges would be more understandable to Joe and Kate than I. So maybe you could share that information.
I'm going to do my best. But I will tell you that there are some very unique ways that payroll is handled here. And as best as I understand it, after spending the last month in the deep in the bowels of it, there are a number of employees here who were blessed with some longevity, and they receive a longevity payment. this is just the difference between what I'm used to and what I see here, so it's not a judgment. However, instead of the longevity payment being a separate pay line in ADP, this town takes an average. So they input your annual, whatever your annual pay would be, plus the longevity, and then they take an average of that, and that's what gets programmed in to ADP. And so when you're giving an increase, and the increase goes to your hourly rate, but it doesn't go to the longevity piece or the other pieces that, you know, there are some other special payments as well. You have to strip that out and apply the 4% or the 3% to the base number, and then add back in any special payments. And so that's what made this a little more complicated than what I might have imagined at the start. And it's all doable, right? It's just math, but it doesn't happen in a truly automated way. It happens, it's a little bit more manual of a process, and you've got to check and triple check, because we're dealing with people's pay. You know, we want to make sure that it's absolutely accurate. So I don't know if you guys are aware of that. You maybe the way you do it at your place too. I'm not sure.
Well, it seems to me, and I'll defer then to the HR experts here, but it seems to me that kind of defeats the purpose. If there's not a recognition line that says, here's your longevity and we're recognizing you for that, then it's kind of just incorporated into regular pay. It must be hard to, I don't know, this stratifying out seems to make sense. And I think, Kimberly, you explained to me once too that there were a number of work weeks that weren't aligned with the ADP system, and those are also been rectified at this time, right?
That's been contemplated within the study, and so that's been corrected as well and updated. And it's just a more modernizing of the pay plan that was anticipated all along.
Is longevity pay, is that like a percentage of your base, or is it a flat amount, or?
That amount based on your number of years of service. I think it goes in 5-year increments.
Okay.
And you know, the employees who've been here, excuse me, and who receive it, they probably understand exactly how it's done. It's just a person coming in and when you're trying to do something in an automated way, it just posed a little bit of a challenge that we had to work through.
Okay.
So so we talked about letters went well, and now the payroll file has been put in. It was done by upload, so we did not do individual changes of status for all of these. It was all done by upload, which was, I think, helpful as well. We have calculated change of status forms that we're updating, and they will go out this week to each of the payroll admin assistants. So that any future changes, if someone's promoted next week, or if their pay increase is due upcoming, those will be accurate and ready. And then the tables, we had to load all of the tables for the new comp and class study into ADP and into our HRIS system, and so that's been cared for as well. So it's been a pretty heavy pace, but everyone's done, I think, remarkably well under the circumstances. You know, I was turning my thoughts from the comp and class study, which we still have a number of things to finalize. Of course, we still have a number of job descriptions that'll have to come before you, and of course we have some recruitment, you know, pent up demand. But kind of moving forward, we have so much more work to do on a dashboard that we want to use internally, and we want to be able to promote to you as well. We haven't gotten nearly as much accomplished this month on that as I would have hoped. So that's my my caveat to you. And then also the pay equity issue that we continue to talk about. That's kind of the next phase of, you know, what do we do now that we've put people into the new plan? We need to check it to see where do we have any issues that need to be addressed, or what issues might we have that need to be addressed. But saving the dashboard and the pay equity piece, which you know, our nice size obligations. I think going forward, I want to focus on, we have the job description issue, of course. We have a number of policy updates, two of which Alan, Dave Wood, and I have worked on, and it's all but ready to go before Carrie and the leadership team, and then we'll be bringing it to you for approval. But we'll be talking through the uniform policy and kind of more standardization. We want the town to look like a cohesive unit. And we have a number of situations where some groups give out uniforms, some allow people to buy things and then get reimbursed for them, some pay for it up front. And we're saying, you know, these days, we'd like to be able to not ask people to pay for things and get reimbursement, especially things like boots, which can be several $100. Prescription eyewear, which is hugely expensive. If you've bought glasses lately, I mean, it's crazy. We prefer not to ask our employees to have to lay out money for that. And one of the gentlemen who works in the public works area was telling me that he worked at a town prior, and Kate, you may be familiar with this, where there's a boot truck, where the truck rolls in, and you have so much allocated that you can spend. You can buy whichever type of boots, because here, of course, you've got summer, you've got winter, you've got snow boot, you know, it's a little bit of a grab bag. And so the boot truck, and also there's a similar situation that exists where if you have a prescription for particular eyewear, you can choose the goggles or whatever type of eyewear you need. And if you bring your prescription, they make them and return them to you. So the town gets billed rather than the employee having to put out several dollars and wait for the reimbursement. So Kate, you sounded like it looked as if you might have recognized that. Do you guys do that?
We don't. I've heard of it, and we would love to be able to do that because all of our departments are a little different in how they. But we don't have as many non-union employees, so we have 5 collective bargaining units. So it's very different. It's all governed by the CBAs anyway.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's awesome. I mean, you know, I might look into that for DPW at least.
Yeah.
It's a great idea.
Besides the uniform policy, we also have standby, I believe it's standby pay that we're standardizing between a number of departments, so that I believe some of the union contracts may have gotten a little bit ahead, where it's the stipends for certain standby activities is a little bit higher, and we want to make that more in line. And so those two will likely be the first 2 policies you'll see, but there is a pent-up demand for a number of policy updates that we want to work through and then bring to you for approval. And then we mentioned before this recruiting idea, which I think is just so right for great discussion. And I hope that by the time I leave, you see a recruiting package and a recruiting strategy that really makes a difference, you know, because that's what we're after is impact. You know, we want to be able to reach out into the community and attract and retain the best and the brightest for our citizens here. And so looking forward to working on those things as key measures.
Awesome.
I'm sorry, there's a lot of background noise here. I'm not sure if you're hearing all the trucks. But with the recruiting, I wonder, I'm following on Joe's ideas, like what can we do to make it enticing and interesting? And my mind goes to this idea that in 2025, we have the 250th anniversary of the Revolutionary War, and there's so many things that are going to be going on in the town. It sounds like an exciting set of programs that some of these new positions might have a chance to work on. Certainly with the media folks, they'll have a lot going on, and I think they're planning some big name speakers and that sort of thing too. So that might be interesting. Well, it sounds, so I'll try to summarize. I'm going to have to look back at the video because I can't type and and do this now. I'm not gonna do a good job, but these are all, I think, terrific and very specific things, Kimberly, for us to understand that you're dealing with the implementation of the new plan. So it's very helpful, I think. And, you know, as you say, the dashboard shouldn't only be useful for the personnel board, but it sounds like, you know, you're finding ways to integrate that into the work that you in the HR department might be doing, but could be of benefit to many of the leaders that were on the phone earlier.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
All right, so any other comments on the implementation or Joe? Yeah.
No, I was just gonna say thank you to Kimberly. I mean, that's a lot of work and effort to get us where we are. So
Yes.
through some of the stuff in the past, so I know it's not easy, so we appreciate it.
A huge team effort, and you really do have a fantastic team. So it's my
Well,
pleasure.
just getting the agenda together last week, I'll tell you guys that Kimberly had been there till midnight the night before, doing all of this work and making sure that the letters got out in time. So it really has been a really big effort. And I think Kimberly, that there is a fantastic teams come together with fantastic leaders, and they're spurred on to good behavior. And I mean, their best, they wanted to bring their best. And so I feel that you've spurred them on, and I really appreciate all of it, just like Joe was saying. Thank you. All right, so we have one last agenda item. So shall we move to look at the charter? What I tried to do is, from the last meeting we had a lot of comments, and I put them into that document. So I have to not see you all unless I see only the speaker in order to bring this up for my own viewing. So please jump in and comment. I put it together so I can maybe answer questions, but I'll really look to you two, Joe and Kate in particular, but of course, Kimberly, your comments too, to help us understand. I think we have Carlin Reed on the phone, so Carlin, I'll make sure to make room for public comment. So I haven't forgotten you're there, okay?
Don't worry about it. I'm just listening. That's fine. Thanks, Liz.
Okay, and you can see Carlin too, as a public person on the call. It's really been a great effort, I think, from the past. I don't think we needed to do a public comment statement or opening for the last agenda items. But maybe for this one, it would be interesting also to hear, Carlin, your ideas, okay? Unless you feel you have other comments, because I'm not sure where we should have had open comments on, if you do it after each agenda item or not.
But you're muted.
Whatever you wish. You're in charge of the meeting, Liz. I'll follow your lead.
Okay, all right. So why don't we jump into the personnel board charge, and as a reminder, this is our round 2 or 3 with the charge. I think it's round 3. We were looking at trying to understand if we could make this the one-stop shop, in Bill's words, to have a statement about what the board does with the charge, understanding that we will, in the bigger picture of the town structure, we do have to have a bylaw. But the idea that we keep this short and sweet, and so things were cut out in this one too, to make it, you know, more of a brief statement. It's still, as you can see, rather long. And then there's a second version if you go down. So it's with all the comments, it's 3 pages, but the first draft there is really 2 pages if we cleaned it up. And then the second one was in the context of following the sample charge that we got from the select board through Mark Howell. And I tried to use that structure, but ended up keeping those 4 categories of communication, governance, human resource, and employee relations that we had organized for our responsibilities to the select board presentation. So they're really, in the end, it's not too different one to the other, I'm afraid. So, but why don't I, with those opening comments, I'll leave it to you all for your thoughts.
So can I guess I first want to ask what do we want to get out of our discussion tonight? So we're not making recommendations, we're just discussing sort of where it landed from the prior meeting, and then once the full board is together again, we'll reconvene, or I'm trying to want to understand how.
Well, I think if reading through where it is now, if you have specific things you don't agree with or something, we should register those.
Okay.
So we progress the thing along. But you're right, I don't think we can finish it and approve it without the full board here.
Okay.
I wouldn't want to do that because they don't have time to comment, right?
Yeah, right. Yeah, no,
Yeah.
agree. Yeah, I agree. Yeah. So,
Okay.
I mean, I don't know, Joe, you wanted to start, or,
Go ahead, Kate.
so where do I start? Advisory vote, okay, so I guess the first is, well, I mean, the duties and responsibilities, which is really the meat of it. I don't have as much to say about the mission statement and the purpose. I think those seem okay. So I guess the first piece, the personnel board shall have responsibility for the administration of the personnel bylaw, wage and salary classification plan of the town, including the following. And I'm wondering if we want to change that to limited to the following instead of, I guess I'm concerned that if you make it, we don't want to open it up to everything.
Sorry,
then,
Kate, where are you? Because I'll put the comments in it.
duties and responsibilities. I'm on the draft one with all
The
of
first one,
comments.
okay.
Yeah.
Including the following, limited to the following,
Yeah,
is what you said. Okay.
yeah. I mean, it's
All
just
right, got it.
maybe a semantics thing, but and then I guess we had talked about in not the last meeting, but the prior one, about doing the bylaw first and then having the bylaw flow into the charge. And clearly that's not what the majority of the board wants, because you sort of move forward with the charge, which is fine. I'm not commenting on. I guess I'm concerned that we haven't really established whether the personnel board should have responsibility over the wage and salary classification plan. I know that in the past we voted on it, but it almost seems like, I think even in the study task force, it talked about this concept of being a kind of a rubber stamp. And is that really where we want to sort of put our effort? Because really the town manager and the HR manager are the ones that sort of develop the wage classification plan and then bring it to us and we vote on it. So, I mean, that was sort of my first thought. I know there was a lot there, so.
Yeah, Joe, do you have any comments there?
I mean, the way I was looking at it is, I guess, the first section under duties and responsibilities is kind of restating some of the stuff pulled from the bylaw. Right, and then you get into, maybe in addition to that, kind of the role that we can provide in an advisory capacity, which I kind of like the layout of that. So I don't know that I have anything to add as far as your comments, Kate, around, the approval of a classification or build of it.
Yeah, I guess this, for me, it really comes back to the fact that and this is just, maybe this is just the way my brain works, but I feel like we're doing it in the wrong order. So that the bylaw really is the meat of what our authority, mapping out who we are and what we do and what we have the authority to do. And we haven't really even figured that out yet, in my opinion. We haven't figured out sort of the meat of what our authority should be moving forward. And so to do a mission statement before we figure that out seems out of order.
Well, that I feel is all wrapped up into this together. Like, I feel like the mission part is up front, and then you kind of get into pulling in the bylaw stuff. And maybe this isn't maybe I'm reading it wrong, but like the letter E underneath that talks about review of job classification, rates of pay under the wage and salary classification plan. Like a lot of this stuff, I think, is approval. That gets built by the HR team and the town manager. And then come to us for approval, at least the stuff that's in the bylaws. I think the other pieces of this, like communication and maybe the HR and employee relations piece, you get into a little bit more of an advisory or partnership capacity. But I personally think it's good to have something that's abbreviated, that you know, that's a 1, 2, or 3 page document that incorporates the key points from the bylaw that can be used to quickly share with people if they have questions. Well, what's personnel board about? This goes at it in a way that's broader than just giving them the personnel bylaw, but also doesn't just restate the bylaw. So that's kind of why I thought there was some value in it. And it also shows to citizens that we serve not only as, you know, the term we've been using, rubber stamping or approving stuff, but also hopefully, you know, providing guidance and help and ideas and thought partnership to work that's currently underway with the town or will be underway, where they're looking for anything that can help them, you know, come up with good HR practices and good things for the town and the people that work there. I think if we don't have these things combined, we might miss that opportunity. So that's my opinion. So
I would say that, Joe, that's kind of fits with what Bill was saying with the one stop, you know, because he was thinking of a broader audience, as you've just described it, for this document that pulls in, you know, the bylaw, some information, but does that, as you said, the advisory roles as well, like HR, the employee relations piece and communications. And I would be on the same page with that. I think the other thing for me is always that the bylaw takes a year to get revised because it's only a town meeting that it can be finalized. But I think it was the objective that we would certainly be looking at that also, but that we started with this. Is that right?
And I don't think, like, in my mind, this isn't about usurping authority from the town manager or HR director. It's more providing clarity around what our role is. And I think that's the nice thing about this is it starts to do that in concrete ways, at least in my opinion.
Yeah, I agree. I don't want to sound like I feel like this is sort of taking, you know, authority where it's not given. I guess my concern is that we map out a charge and then we work on our bylaw, and the charge says one thing. So the charge, you know, has some pieces in it that maybe after we've really, you know, we dive into our bylaw and we do some research and look at data, look at what other personnel boards are doing in other towns, and then we decide, oh, well, no, that's not really where we need to go. But now we're kind of locked into putting it in our bylaw because it's in our charge.
Well, the charge is easier to update too, right? We can do that with the select board and don't have to go to town meeting. So it's not locked in like that.
I guess it's just that my background is really is in legislation and policy, and so for me to think about doing a document that is more accessible, you know, the sort of, this is our FAQ almost, or a fact sheet before we've done the actual work on the bylaw, seems backwards to me. But if this is the way that the majority of the board wants to move forward, that's fine. You know, I can change my brain or try.
Well, how about this, Kate? Can I volunteer you to work on the bylaw in tandem with this work?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so that
okay.
might be helpful. So you could then be on the side saying, okay, that if you want to do that with the charge, you've got to understand the bylaw doesn't align or something. That would be really helpful. You know, if you were kind of monitoring the bylaw.
Yeah, sure. No, that's a great idea. Actually, I can work on that. So for specific comments, I guess that was more general. I had, was I? Under number E, it says Concord Town and school position. So I guess at reasonable interviews, reviewing job classification rates, pay under the wage and salary classification plan, et cetera. And then it says Concord town and school positions, but I don't think we have any oversight, or why would, I'm just questioning why we would be looking at school positions.
I'm so sorry. I'm just still getting to E. Okay, there's
Okay,
E.
yeah, I jumped forward, sorry.
There was a reason that we put in that, because I think that was parents of and school. So it was taking into account such factors as pay rates for like jobs. And when the CNC plan was reviewed, part of the work of GovHR was to take into consideration the current unionized agreement, the agreement for union employees, so that it wasn't completely out of whack with what the union agreements for the town had been. So I think that's where that came from. It probably could be finessed a bit better.
I was just curious, since, I mean, it says in the beginning section there that except school, anything controlled by the school committee, so.
Right, so, but this isn't, it's only taking into account such factors for like jobs. It's not that those jobs would be assessed in there, you know, like at reasonable interviews review, right? Taking in that review, consider these things. So the balance was what the
Okay, I see.
point was about.
So I guess my other comment about this is that, you know, having done job classification reviews and doing, that's a lot of work. I mean, overall, this is a lot to put on a volunteer board of 5 members who, you know, all have day jobs. So I'm wondering if that really is more of a function that should fall within HR, and then they can bring that to, I mean, I know it is review, but we're not, I don't know. Maybe
So you're
it's just
talking about the
reporting.
whole CNC plan, Kate, or just E? What,
No,
I mean,
E. I mean, there are a couple of other pieces throughout here that I feel like for a volunteer board to take on is a lot. And I'm wondering if it, you know, as an advisory board, I don't know why we would be reviewing that or doing a full comp study or something like that on other communities for comparison. I mean, that's really something that would fall under HR.
so so the role that we played with GovHR, right? And then we're responsible for bringing the plan to town meeting. So if we're not reviewing the plan, but we have to stand up and take responsibility for the plan, I would feel very uncomfortable taking any role. So it's all or nothing in that sense, I guess, for me. That, you know, if you have to stand up and present to town meeting on the new class and comp plan, you better have reviewed and know what you're standing for, right? I'm not sure if it's all out.
But we aren't doing the actual digging into, you know, doing comparable, figuring out what our comparable
we're
communities
reviewing.
are
Not the
doing
verb.
the actual study. Okay.
So we'll review and confirm is a word that, so the first one, A, review and confirm job class, min-max, wage brackets and salaries. I'm pretty sure that's in the bylaw too. With the town manager and the HR director, that was newly added, I think, after our last meeting. And then, yeah, so it's, if you want to, I think what we're narrowing in on is, are those the correct verbs? Because otherwise, if we have no role, then we should not be presenting it at a town meeting. And right now, we're responsible to present at town meeting. Does that make sense? Any other comments?
Yeah, no, that makes sense.
No, I have a comment just not related to the bylaw clause, just at the very end of the section in employee relations when we get to that.
Okay, go for it.
So in that one, I guess, so this is at the end of the document now, where we talk about meeting with employees, or the personnel board will hold regularly scheduled meetings with non-union regular employees. My question was whether that's really something that should be in scope for the board, or whether we should be helping the town think about ways to ensure that employees have the opportunity to have their voice heard, whether it's employee surveys, focus groups, feedback sessions, whatever, or whether the town really wants the board involved directly with employees. I don't know. I haven't seen that in private industry, but maybe it's common in public to have the personnel boards take more direct
So,
interaction with the employees.
Joe, I'll just say that the language in that employee relations side came out of the PSTF task force report, right? And
Okay.
what they expected of the personnel board. So it really is up for grabs. It was part of our presentation to the select board in December, that there were some actions that we recognized they were requesting us to do. But I think that's another thing, like this charge has to go back to the select board once we have agreement, right?
Yeah.
And I think you're right. What you just said to me, what registered was a more nuanced approach to our support for employee relations, right? That we could do some more background things that may be more effective than saying that meeting with us is a big deal, you know? I would
Yeah.
agree with that.
And people may be intimidated depending on who they are or not. Maybe sometimes they want a person they don't know that's in a position of perceived authority to talk to. But I feel like where we could add value here would be more like if we had a set of data from an employee survey, just as an example, helping the town and the HR team work through that data to say, you know, what's it telling us, and what are one or two things that we think we could do differently, or would advise the town does differently that might improve the experience or the culture or whatever the feedback is that employees are bringing forward. It's just how you do it. So it's not necessarily disagreeing with having that section and something there. I just don't know that the board directly meeting with employees is necessarily the best tactic, but that can be open for discussion.
Yeah, go ahead, Kate.
No, I was
Sorry.
gonna say, I had a similar note to myself. I agree with Joe. I don't know that is something that might be beneficial for the board or for the employees. Yeah, I agree.
Okay, I am taking notes on this conversation, so I'm slow to respond, but I'm in agreement with both of you on that as well. And, you know, what I think needs then to occur is that we go back, when we do go back to the select board, which we have to do with any change in the charter because they have to agree to it, that we are pretty clear with them, explicit about, we didn't follow exactly what was recommended by the task force, but we're strategically looking at it in the same way, trying to accomplish or giving more open opportunity to what we could support, rather than just specific X number of meetings and so forth, especially, and you know, with the volunteer board, it is a weird situation. We're not in any kind of authority position. We're really just advisory, so.
Yeah, well, and the other thing is like it's in the bylaws where I haven't been part of one of these yet, but if an employee feels aggrieved or, you know, wants to have their situation heard, then that comes to us. So I think that's the more formal route, but
Yeah.
so the rest of this, I thought Kate and Liz and Kimberly was really fine with me. I thought it was a very good edit. I think we're getting much closer. I mean, I'm not the expert on the personnel bylaw part of it. But you know, the other pieces that we've been talking about for a number of weeks, I think they look good.
Okay. Can I go back to the communication piece? It says, in support of overall town governance, town citizens and town employees, the personnel board will be responsible. I don't think that's something that we are responsible for. I think we can support the HR director and town manager to make sure those happen, but I don't think it really falls within our purview.
Okay. All right.
And then the other one was under human resources. Maybe these are nitpicky. I'm sorry, I'm not trying to be nitpicky.
No, that's all right.
It says, support the town manager and HR department. The personnel board shall work regularly with supporting data to identify and rectify. We're not actually going to be fixing the problems. We're going to be, I guess, providing recommendations for how to fix the problems. I guess maybe it's just the language use.
So identify and
I would just say
provide recommendations.
identify challenges in recruitment, and then shall work to support or provide, advice on solutions or something. I'm wordsmithing, but.
Okay. Got it.
And then, so I'm jumping around a lot. I'm sorry, but back under duties and responsibilities, there were a couple of ones that I guess I was just sort of not really sure. The last one, I provide advice to the town manager on collective bargaining matters. I know it says as requested, but I'm not sure that really adds much. And as
But it's advice. It's not rectify. It's just advice, right? And that is in the bylaw too, that one.
Well, I guess
maybe when you take a look at the bylaw, see if the language could be better
Okay.
aligned, or if you want to change both,
yeah,
But
I guess
provide advice was what you didn't like? Is that?
No, just that we're providing advice on collective bargaining matters at all. I don't really understand why that's even in the bylaw, because exceptions include, it really specifically says in our bylaw that our purview is, non-union, regular employees. So why would that be included in our bylaw?
Okay.
And I know it's as requested, but
where that came from. So I looked back as I was revising this one, like where did it originate? And that originated out of the PSTF report, right? Because there was some duty in the past that the committee had done. And there were a lot, you remember one of their main critiques was there was a lot that the personnel board used to do that no longer occurs. So I take the point, I've got it in our notes, so we'll look at that again, but that might be something, Kate, as you look at the bylaw, you might also want to look and see if there's anything like that in there.
Yeah, I think there were, I don't know, I won't get into the task force. I think there were some things in the task force that I didn't necessarily agree with. That, the personnel board had done some things in the past because we were in a very different employment environment. The town maybe the town needed those services, whereas now we have a very professional HR department. So anyway, I won't get into that, but and that was it for me. And I know that we'll probably continue to talk this through.
Okay. All right. No, that's great. I think I got most everything, but please keep your notes, both of you, from what you said for tonight. And we'll try to make sure that nothing gets missed in this discussion, because it would be great to get this done. All right, so we still have only one public commentator or listener. But Carlin, do you have any additional comments? Yeah, I see your hand raised. Okay.
If you don't mind, Carlin Reed, 83 Wits End, I'm just observing, but I did notice one typo and one clarification that you might consider. And both of them are in the section under the charge, under the governance component of it. On the governance section, it's on page 3. In the bullet that starts out, the personnel board is to meet at a regular scheduled time. The third line says personnel board will strive to post meeting materials. I think that should be strive.
It should definitely be strive, yeah. Okay.
And the second thing is the very next bullet. It's defining a quorum. Now, in my mind, you don't need that bullet at all, because when you have a 5-member board, your quorum has to be 3, not at least 3, but 3, right? Because it's a little bit more than half. So you don't need that section. But if you want to keep it in, just say 3 members of the committee are necessary for the quorum. And the bit about it being able to meet in person or via webcast, again, I think it's unnecessary to have in the charge, but it's true. So that's it. Anyway, I think it's a really good charge. I think it captures what, at least my personal vision of what the personnel board can do and should be doing. I think Kate's right. It's a lot for a volunteer group. So think about how much you're doing it, but you really won't know until you put into effect and then try it out. So take it for a run. That's it.
Thank you, Carlin. I put some highlights there, so we'll get those taken care of. I think those are very reasonable and helpful comments. Thank you. And progress, that's both I think Kate and now Carlin have those are encouraging statements. So we're moving forward. So and Joe, thanks. You said the same earlier. Sorry. I do think that pushing it forward, doing the, what you don't like, catching typos, but also like, is this really what we want to say? This is exactly what we're supposed to be doing. So I think it's time well used. I know everybody's so busy and summer schedules are very difficult. So I really appreciate everyone coming tonight. And so that we could really support Kimberly and the whole HR team and get these job descriptions in particular approved so they could move forward, because that was really a very specific need. And I think that the other thing just to highlight for our next meeting is I'll do another round of cleaning up the charge. And Kate, if you want to be on the agenda to look at where things are, we're going to have potholes when it comes to comparing the charge and the bylaw. I think that would be a really good thing to at least get us started on talking about.
Yeah, I agree.
And yeah, and that would bring us into really good timing, because the bylaw, I think we have to have it really in very good shape by the end of November, maybe earlier if possible, so that we're on the right schedule for town meeting to present and just get it confirmed in a smooth manner, not in a rushed and needing Kimberly to save the day manner. So I think we're in really good shape using the summer as we have, even though it means everybody coming during summer. So really, really helpful. All right. So any other comments? Did anything come up as you listened to Carlin, or any other comments that anybody? Kimberly, do you have any thoughts that we should take into the notes?
I do not.
No. Okay.
So
I'm listening and paying attention, but I don't know that I have a lot to offer as to your charge. So I'm here to serve, however you see fit.
So I just was wondering, we skipped over number 3, election of officers of the personnel board. Were we going to wait to do that until everyone was present, or?
Yeah, Kate, I'm sorry. I should have said, I think, and Kimberly, correct me if I'm wrong, that we were trying to delay it so that we would have everyone
Yeah, that makes
here.
sense. Just
And it was
wanted to check.
acceptable to delay. I think Mark confirmed that. Is that right, Kimberly?
Both Mark and Kari Tari, the current clerk, both approved. I'm used to a little bit different setup where officer elections are taken at the first of the period. It's usually April 1st for us because that's an election cycle in Florida. But they both confirmed that it's not on a specific schedule.
Okay.
And it would be perfectly all right to delay until you had more members present, if that was your wish. So it's up to you.
Are you guys okay with that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that makes sense.
Okay. All right. So why don't we do that? Yeah, sorry, I should have said that earlier. All right. So we're moving to the big part of the night at the end. where we ask, are we ready to adjourn?
I move to adjourn. I don't know what time it is, at 7:02 PM.
A second?
Okay, and I will, what is it now? I vote on
Roll
adjourning.
call.
I call the
call vote.
motion. My goodness, I take one vacation, I forget all language. But I call the motion to adjourn at 7 now, yes, still 7:02. Kate?
Yes.
Yeah, and
Yes.
Joe. Okay, all right, thanks, everybody.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you all. Good
Thank you,
seeing you.
Kimberly.